I don't know why this is a conversation. Cal Kestis versus Starkiller. He had to do something in the new game for people to even put him in the same ring as Starkiller because Fallen Order. I mean, it was fine, but he ain't show nothing that was Starkiller.
Current Disney Canon game series against perhaps his most apt analog from Star Wars Legends, that being the collection of Star Wars expanded material from 1977 to around 2014, with the current canon being defined as most media from 2014 onward. Starkiller is, of course, from the, as well, uber popular Force Unleashed series of games.
Well deserved.
They're both pretty much dual saber-wielding young survivors of Order 66, each operating around their respective versions of the Dark Times. They both now have 2 games with a few novels, with Cal's more or less main adversaries being similarly Vader-trained Dark Assassins.
Yeah.
And Cal's put in the work lately, performing feats pretty visually evocative of those many may remember fondly from the days of the Xbox.
That look like he need help.
Evocative.
That look like help to me.
Those many may remember
that don't count
from the days of the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. While this matchup may seem one-sided to some, there is more to each character than meets the eye.
Okay,
what with each saber wielder boasting 2 video games, and with Cal's continued growth in power. This video should hopefully also change the nature of Star Wars canon versus Legends debates, as I think there are a fair few misconceptions therein. For starters, this isn't simply going to be like, well, Cal lost to Vader and Starkiller beat him, case closed. I think many people don't truly understand how vastly different the canon and Legends universes are. They are each 2 very distinct timelines, with even the points of convergence being informed by vastly different contexts and events surrounding them. The biggest and most famous example is probably Luke Skywalker. Love it or hate it, the Last Jedi version of the character led a very different life compared to his Legends counterpart, and
Legends Luke is absolutely overpowered,
and has very different power scaling.
Facts.
It's honestly safer to just assume that's the case all across the board regarding anything from the nature of weapons, histories, and, as this video should demonstrate, power levels. This might as well be a Marvel versus DC topic. They're just 2 completely distinct universe with their own series of feats and quantifications. So just try to look at it that way and keep that in mind moving forward. Also, as more of a Legends connoisseur myself, I've got the Jedi Fallen Order Platinum Trophy alumni, Key Issues Garrick here, to break down Cal Kestis' abilities throughout the video, but we'll begin looking at Starkiller. The son of 2 Jedi escapees of Order 66, taken in at a young age as the secret apprentice of Darth Vader, only to then later be cloned after his sacrificial death, coming back this time even stronger than before.
Whoa, wait, he's stronger? Oh, fuck. I did not know that. Honestly, I thought the original was stronger this whole time.
This rogue Jedi is renowned for his strength. He's kind of known as the, Broly of Star Wars. Just a character that kind of embodies the uber Chad concept of a power fantasy and takes the visual impressiveness of the Force to a level pretty much still unseen on screen to this day. As to find out just how powerful he is exactly, we could go through a rather long and likely exhaustive daisy chain, scaling Galen to this guy, who scales to this guy, who scales to this guy, and on, which would be
Revan versus Starkiller, I think it's way closer of a debate than Cal Kestis. But even, I'm not too sure if Revan would win. I don't know. I think it's more of a debate, honestly. I don't know, though. Honestly, it's a harder debate for me personally.
Be fair to do for sure, and I certainly wouldn't shy away from it typically. But insofar as determining the victor of this matchup, and for the sake of brevity,
Starkiller could take on Attack on Titan.
Actually gives us enough to go off of just based on what he performs alone. In the Force Unleashed 2, the cloned apprentice was seen charging up the Salvation's cannon with his own Force Lightning, powering a blast which cleaves an entire Imperial I-class Star Destroyer in half. Based on the official power output of similar craft, which would inform how durable the Star Destroyer's energy shields are, Starkiller empowered a blast boasting up to 43 teratons of energy, or over 180 sextillion joules, just from his Force Lightning alone. Keep in mind that this gun, again, was powered based on Starkiller's own force energy, so the feat it performed should pretty linearly scale back to Starkiller.
Crazy,
meaning his
bro.
other attacks, such as Force Push, Repulse, Force Valor, and all of his stats should roughly scale to this level as well, seeing as the force he channels is simply his life energy, which he would harness towards all of his abilities in combat, especially his Force Fury, which is basically his own version of Spartan Rage from God of War. In regards to
now Kratos versus Starkiller, nah, bro, I think Kratos is taking that one, man. I'm a god, boy. Ain't no way.
His most famous feat of telekinetically moving the estimated to be around 40 million ton Star Destroyer as he does, it's actually far less impressive, yielding around 50 kilotons of TNT, or roughly a billion times less impressive than his feat in The Force Unleashed 2. For those wondering, while lifting or moving something's weight around is actually less impressive than if you were to
blow it up,
annihilate said object, or in this case, split it in two, there is still some measure of kinetic energy exerted on the person moving the object, with factors such as the speed or severity at which it's being moved influencing the overall yield of said energy. So in this case, with Starkiller pulling and slamming down the destroyer, he'd be producing, again, much less energy compared to splitting it in two. However, we know that the Starkiller clone is actually stronger than the original version who performed this feat, with the original Galen Merrick growing ever stronger as he learned about his past in the first game, which the clone consistently does all throughout the Force Unleashed 2. He even fights a giant rancor-eating monster known as the Gorog, which was stated in the Force Unleashed 2 novel to have enough power behind its strikes to crack a moon in two. Using our real moon, which might be a lowball, as even the moon base of Yavin 4, as seen in Star Wars, is actually nearly as big as the planet Earth. Splitting these celestial bodies in half would yield at least 61 petatons, naturally far stronger than just cracking an Imperial vessel in half. Starkiller was able to block and nullify a large portion of this energy behind his force barrier, and eventually downed the beast. For those questioning why this one weird alien is just strong as we literally only see it in this one game and its tie-in comic, and it just blatantly withstands multiple attacks from Starkiller and mandatory QuickTime events. The same guy who can empower guns to bust apart Star Destroyers with his force energy. So a lot of the time in fiction there will just be weird fauna that can contend with the protags just out of convenience, which is the case here. While one may be inclined to go farther, scaling Starkiller to peak Darth Vader or Darth Sidious, there's actually enough context there to show that the apprentice isn't actually within their tier of power. It's implied in the second The Force Unleashed novel that Vader wasn't aware of his pupil's power, that this underestimation costed him a victory in their first bout. He corrected this flaw by the time of the second game, wherein he was hopelessly out-dueling and overpowering an enraged Galen at multiple points, only losing via exposure to Force Lightning.
Is one weakness.
He actually tanks much of this 43 teraton lightning before ultimately succumbing to it, with Vader's life support being blatantly susceptible to electricity as stated throughout multiple sources. Sidious was in fact toying with Starkiller. While their fight appeared pitched at times, Sidious was demonstrably holding back as he point blank tanks an attack described as containing all of Galen's power, walking away from it and the fight without a scratch to show. So it's safe to scale Starkiller to teratons levels of power and leave it at that. I'm not really going to consider the non-canon versions of Starkiller like how he's shown in the Force Unleashed 1 DLC,
where he killed fucking Luke and evil Luke, and he killed Kenobi, Ghost Kenobi,
or the bad ending of the Force Unleashed 2. The little that we know about Force Unleashed 3 would have...
Guardian of the Galaxy 3 was fucking mid. It was a 6.5. It was boring as shit in the beginning. The ending was really good, but a lot of it is just Rocket Raccoon. Like, he's already a beloved character. They didn't need to go deep into it. That would be my one type of review for, like, Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
I followed up on the Force Unleashed 2's good ending.
It was okay. I wouldn't watch it again, but it was okay.
Even though it never got a follow-up, it is probable that it would have been the main good ending that would have been the canon one going forward anyway. And we really don't even know much about Starkiller's other clone, so yeah.
There's another one.
Cal Kestis was never the child of prophecy, a Jedi destined for greatness, or even a standout among the other Padawans his age, but what defined him was being a survivor. After surviving the Jedi Purge known as Order 66, the young Cal Kestis went into hiding on Baraka, where he became a scrapper for many years, letting the life he lived and his force powers diminish and disappear into the past. That was until that past came crashing into his life in the form of the Inquisitorius. Cal was then thrust back into another war where he, alongside former Jedi Master Seer Junda, would take the fight to the Empire.
And honestly, because yeah, he fought the Ninth Sister pretty frequently to getting his powers back. Like he got some of the powers back, did some meditation, but overall he didn't do any crazy training, and he still took on the Ninth Sister and took her arm. So, you know, as much shit as I would say like Starkiller versus Cal Kestis, you know, Cal isn't a terrible Jedi by any means necessary. It's just when you put him up against a beast like Starkiller, it's kind of like, what is he doing here? He doesn't belong here.
Resisting where they could, and striking when able. Cal's limited training as a Padawan would slowly come back to him throughout his adventures, and in his battles against the Jedi Hunters trained by Darth Vader himself, he would grow more and more confident, as well as more powerful. With his new master, Cal would learn new Force techniques, and his abilities with the lightsaber would become more proficient.
I don't know about the new Star Wars
Eventually,
game,
Cal would release Dagan Gera from his back to stasis, and he would be forced to battle the fallen Jedi. Dagan was a Jedi from the High Republic era, when the Jedi were at their height just over 200 years prior to the Clone Wars. Even Yoda was at his most powerful during this era, not to mention the strongest Jedi to ever live, Porter Engle, was also alive at this time.
Wait, the strongest Jedi to ever live?
And the strongest Jedi to ever live, Porter Engle.
I've never heard of this guy. So this guy's stronger than Luke in Legends? What? Okay.
Was also alive at this time. Dagan is referred to as one of the Jedi Order's finest warriors, and by the time of their final duel, his power had returned to him completely. While I wouldn't say Dagan is the strongest Jedi of the High Republic, he'd likely still be behind the likes of Porter Engle, Yoda, Avar Kriss, and Elzar Mann. I'd say it's probably fair to say he's comparable to the tier of Jedi just below these four. One of the best examples of the Jedi within that range of power would be Loden Greatstorm. Loden is referred to as one of the greatest Jedi of the High Republic, which I'd consider to be a similar statement to that of Dagan's, who is one of the finest. Greatstorm is able to deflect blaster fire from a starship, something that is incredibly difficult to do. Loden's most impressive feat is lifting a mountain, and while his Padawan Bel Zettifar was there to help, the gap in power between Loden and Bel was astronomical, and Bel's assistance would be a drop in the bucket of Loden's force ability. To compare this to the Jedi of the current era, Yoda was also able to stop the momentum of a living mountain, and Loden is able to accomplish feats that characters like Asajj Ventress could not. Asajj herself is no slouch, able to duel and even get the better of multiple Jedi Masters. To support Dagan and therefore Cal being at this level, Dagan was able to claim victory over Ravis, a Gendai so powerful that it took many other Jedi Knights to eventually subdue after Dagan's turn.
Did he beat him?
Ravis claims that Cal is likely Dagan's equal, and Cal proves it by defeating Dagan in battle as well.
As far as the clone...
Okay, I mean, that's cool and all, but you basically said Cal is this good because of other people's feats. Yet, every time we talk about Starkiller, we talk about what Starkiller has done and who he's beaten. But we didn't talk about how he beat Darth Vader, even though, like, Darth Vader was, of course, weakened because he wasn't aware. That's still the same guy that took on a dragon. I'm just saying.
Combat speed. The same could be said of Starkiller as pretty much any Force user in the Legends universe. Through his Force-augmented agility, he reacts to and deflects many a blaster bolt, which are described in the lore as moving at the speed of light. With novels even explaining that the beams seen by audiences are actually just glowing pulses, moving slower than the actual light beam. With the laser itself being practically invisible in most most cases per their speed, moving at the speed of light.
Force.
There are as well calculations based on Mace Windu's combat speed in the 2D Clone Wars series, deflecting many droid-fired lasers. A feat Starkiller replicates left and right, landing again within the speed of light ranges, making this all very consistent. Even further than that, we have Anakin Skywalker reacting fast enough in hyperspace to halt the cruiser he was flying before it hit the planet he was flying towards. With Galen obviously
didn't Han do that shit too?
And reacting to Darth Vader across both of their fights, with Vader stated to have greater access to the Force than his Anakin self, multiple times over leading into the Force Unleashed. It's enough to say that Starkiller should have at least relative levels of reaction and combat speed, as this at least 3,000 times the speed of light display. Even if he doesn't outright scale to peak Vader, their two fights and the fact that Starkiller didn't just get blitzed should be enough to say he's within these ranges.
As for speed, Cal boasts reaction speeds of massively faster than light. There are multiple characters in-universe who are able to react to static objects while flying through hyperspace, and Cal would scale to this level of speed as well.
In terms of his skills as a duelist, Starkiller stated to have practically perfected saber combat. His main two styles are Juyo and Soresu. The highly violent and dangerous Juyo actually requires high-level masteries of most of the other forms to perform at all. Soresu being specifically designed for defense, opening one's senses to their utmost and allowing for the blocking of various projectiles and even close-ranged weapons at once. If one had to prioritize only two forms, these are debatably the most optimal, with Juyo providing a strong and kinetic offense in tandem with Soresu's superb defensive qualities. Keep in mind too that Starkiller would be pretty much a master of both forms, and likely the rest as well
because of proxy
Juyo's requirements. And while I will say that his defeat of Vader in The Force Unleashed 2 was mostly circumstantial, Galen was actually losing the duel until he deferred to the closest thing to Vader's kryptonite, that being Force Lightning. The fact that he was able to keep up with such a tenured and elite combatant as Vader at all is a feat, with the Fallen Chosen One demonstrating the highest levels of aptitude with every lightsaber form. 18 whole years before his encounter with Starkiller, before Vader's continual training and ever-increasing improvements.
Concerning skill, Cal is also incredibly impressive. As mentioned previously, he's able
to
go...
how do we go from like that trap remix beat whatever to this like
toe-to-toe with Dagan? Dagan is stated to bring the full skill of one of the Order's finest Jedi to bear. Again, the Jedi of the High Republic are exceptional, with the middle-of-the-pack Masters and Knights being able to perform lightsaber feats unheard of during the Clone War. If we're again comparing Dagan to Master Greatstorm,
I need to learn more about the Old Republic in general.
Odin was legendary.
I hear they're really
duelist.
Good.
Cal displays his skill with the saber and his mastery of several stances.
Which is crazy because
he can use a single saber like most other Jedi, but with his highly adaptable lightsaber, he can switch forms in an instant, completely changing the battle and turning the tide in his favor. He can fight with a double-bladed lightsaber, use two at once, equip a crossguard and overpower the opposition, or even use a blaster alongside a reverse blade grip to become a truly unpredictable opponent.
I touched briefly on Galen's Force-based abilities before, but to go further in depth, he of course has telekinesis, telepathy, Force push, Force choke, Force repulse, Force lightning, and Force rage, as mentioned before. He also boasts two menace, which is the ability used whenever you see someone absorb or deflect energy, such as blaster bullets or Force lightning, at least in Legends, with Starkiller using it to both aforementioned ends. All of these powers should be capable of outputting or absorbing energies within the ranges of his at least teraton levels of power, as Force users employ abilities such as Force Valor to channel their energy throughout their physical body or other powers. While certain Jedi do specialize in abilities and develop more lopsided strengths as far as their powers are concerned, they should all generally scale to one another. Basically, Galen would be able to force push someone with the same amount of kinetic energy as he can produce with his telekinetic slams, and absorb or diffuse roughly the same levels of power with his two menace.
Finally, Cal's Force abilities have become quite impressive as well. Of
what
course,
is
he has
new
precognition and telekinesis, as every Jedi does. He pushes, pulls, lifts, drops, etc. He can also crush objects with the Force. Jedi mind trick. Even the most stalwart minds, including purge troopers who are specifically trained
immune
to
to that
Jedi.
shit. Yeah.
Not only this, Cal could resist and turn Dagon's mind manipulation against him,
Really?
which is stated to be able to dominate the strongest minds in the galaxy. But Cal's signature force abilities are force stasis, which allows him to slow the movements of his opponents or even halt them entirely, preventing them from moving, as well as psychometry, which allows him to read echoes of the path through the Force, gaining insight after touching an item of significance. Lastly, Cal can tap into the dark side at any time to gain a massive boost to his power level, allowing him to run through the most deadly agents of the Empire without a second.
With all of their feats and prowess explained, who would win between the Jedi Survivor and the Secret?
I mean, Cal sounds cool and all. His powers look cool, but again, I mean, versus Starkiller, I don't know.
Apprentice.
I don't think
as
so.
As expected, despite growing leaps and bounds above where he was in Fallen Order,
yeah, it sounds like he's really, really good.
Visually reminiscent of Starkiller's, once raw numbers get involved, it becomes very much in favor of Galen Merrick.
Yeah.
Even if we were to say that lifting a mountain yields the same amount of energy it would take to destroy it, when in all reality the act of lifting an object only accounts for a small fraction compared to utterly annihilating it, Starkiller directly and consistently performs feats 7,000 times more impressive than that of Loden Greatstorm lifting a mountain and Cal scaling to that.
Yeah, because Cal didn't lift the fucking mountain.
For speed, they'd each be in a similar tier, scaling to those who can react to stationary objects in the galaxy-crossing speeds of hyperspace, and being able to react to or scale to those who deflect lasers, and so on.
While Cal does offer more versatility as far as his saber types and configurations are concerned,
that means very little to someone that's fought multiple different bosses with different fighting styles and trained with a droid that purposely had the greatest Jedi of the time period, and he had to beat them while that same robot was trying to kill him. It does not matter how many different lightsabers Cal has.
The Clone Force wielder should have the greater aptitude with a blade, given his feats of somewhat contending with arguably the most skilled duelist of all time in the Legends universe, someone bearing the description of the highest echelon of combatants, that being the ability to fluidly switch between forms at all times.
With Starkiller even boasting blatant mastery of up to 6 of the 7 lightsaber forms based on Julio's Legends description. If the two were to clash in the realm of raw force abilities, ignoring Starkiller's massive advantage in terms of outright attack potency,
Cal Kestis does showcase a few esoteric powers that Starkiller may have trouble dealing with, such as
the stasis, right?
Stasis and Cal's mental ability.
But Cal used stasis on Vader, and Vader shook that shit off. Not immediately, but he eventually shook it off.
While having answers
Makes
in the
me
Legends
think, what about if Starkiller had his his force boost power? I don't know.
Timeline, Starkiller himself hasn't shown any blatant resistances to them. That being said, it's highly unlikely that Cal's stasis would even work on Galen, given again the 7,000 times difference in their power in Starkiller's favor. It's sort of like, do you really think someone could hold another person in place if they're just thousands of times stronger than them? Not likely.
We got a
With the former
Eisen
Padawan
moment.
no longer surviving against attacks, such as the clones, force repulses, slams, crushes, or he would be brutally overpowered by the apprentice's devastating force channeled through saber combat.
Bro, Vader
so when
is
everything
toying
is
with
said
him.
and done, Starkiller still reigns as the champion of Star Wars video game protagonists, at least considering Cal Kestis. Thanks as always for Keishu Scarrick helping me out and providing the Star Wars canon and Cal Kestis scaling specifically. Of course, thanks everyone for watching. I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to hit 40k soon. It would be a big landmark, so I would really like it if you guys could subscribe. There is a lot more content like this on the way, so thank you again.
Great video, Crisis. I'm already subscribed. I've been subscribed for a while. But yeah, that was a great video. Man, I honestly, I knew Starkiller would win. I just wanted to know, why is this even a debate? What did he do in the later games and this newest game, because I didn't play it. So yeah, to hear that he went against Vader, but to watch him win a quick time event, and his quick time event winning is him getting slapped and pushed to the ground, That's like, yeah, bro, nah. Yeah, bro, nah. But yeah, it's also good to go back because I haven't played these games in a long time. I haven't watched the new movies. I don't know a lot about the old Republic, so it's good to get like a refresher. I used to really love Star Wars, but it's just I don't know. It's been a long time since I've really enjoyed it. But yeah, it's your boy Miss Conway. Subscribe. See you guys next time. Bye.